might be the last video that I make for a little while. Made a little spurt of videos lately. But it might not be, because if things keep being so goddamn stupid all the goddamn time, then I might keep being pissed enough to fucking make videos all the time. Who knows? But what I'm pissed about today is transgender mice, or if you live in reality, transgenic mice. But we'll get to that distinction in a minute. So, President Donald Trump claimed that Doge had found some amount of money. I think it was like tens of millions of dollars, an amount that's a pittance for the federal government, but whatever. He claimed that that amount of money was being spent on research into transgender mice. Look, I'm incredibly supportive of trans people, but if we were actually funding mice, who to my knowledge do not have a concept of gender, to be transgender, that would actually be a waste of money. It would be the first example of like clear-cut waste that Doge had found, right? But there's a problem with that. You see, Trump said that this was research into transgender mice, when what actually was being funded, what research was actually being done, was transgenic research on mice. Which, if you don't know what that means, if you're pretty good with word roots, you do know what that means, even if you've never heard the word before, because it means exactly what its roots mean. But if not, that's fine. You don't know what you don't know until you know it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what transgenic means, there's nothing wrong with that unless you refuse to learn more. And we'll get into that a little more in just a sec. But what transgenic means is transgenic research is gene editing research. We do gene editing research on mice to try to come up with medical advances to be applied to humans. And some of you might just not like gene editing. I think it's kind of silly to refuse to gene edit to get benefits for humans, especially like from a Christian, supposedly traditionalist Christian perspective. A lot of the people who oppose gene editing, God told us to use animals for our own benefit, right? I don't see how gene editing a mouse to learn how to fucking cure a human disease isn't doing exactly what we were told to do. We were told to use animals for our benefit, and that's what we're doing with these mice. So, but if you oppose gene editing and you hear transgenic research, and then you oppose the transgenic research, that's fine. You oppose the actual thing that's going on, so you think it's bad. Perfect. Follows 100%. Beautiful, beautiful reasoning. Perfect, beautiful reasoning. But that's not what Trump did. What Trump did was he saw the word transgenic. He did not know what it means, which again, it's fine if you don't know what a word means at first. You don't know what you don't know until you know it, and that's fine. But when he didn't know what the word meant, he didn't think, okay, I'll find out what this fucking word means, and then I'll make a decision based on that. What he thought is, transgenic sounds kind of like transgender. It's probably the same thing. I'm gonna make governing decisions based on my total fucking lack of knowledge of what words mean. And that's what Donald Trump did. And for the president to make governing decisions based on not knowing what a word means and just assuming it means some other entirely unrelated shit that he happens to hate for entirely unrelated reasons, and to cut funding based on that is the most profoundly idiotic thing I've ever heard of in my fucking fucking life. And I know some of you are going to cope about this. You're going to say, well, Biden mixed up words. And yeah, he did. But that's not the equivalent. So Biden, one of his most famous mix-ups is he called President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine, he called him President Putin, right? That's a pretty big fucking fuck-up in terms of misspeaking, right? He called the guy who's invading his country. That's a big word to mix up. That's he done goofed for sure, but even that is not the equivalent of this. What would be the equivalent of this with Biden's word mix-ups is if he had called Zelensky Putin, and then because of that, he had put sanctions on Zelensky and given money to Putin. That would be the equivalent. Making governing decisions based on your misunderstanding of words and refusal to follow up on them and actually fucking learn what things mean that you're making decisions on. That would be the equivalent. Is if after Biden had called Zelensky Putin, he had refused to correct the mistake in his mind and had put sanctions on Zelensky because he thought he was Putin now. That's how fucking dumb what Donald Trump just did is. And we're getting to a point where I know that it's been popular for a long time to say, oh, MAGA cult, MAGA cult. And there's always been a cult-like core to MAGA. And then there's always been some more normal people. I don't think anyone who's true MAGA is really that normal, but there's been some more normal people. And then there's a lot of people who aren't MAGA, but who vote for Trump because on a lesser of two evils basis, and plenty of those are normal people. But we're getting to a point now with shit like this where if you look at Donald Trump doing that, making governing decisions because he doesn't understand what a word means, refuses to learn what it means, and just assumes it means some other shit that kind of vaguely sounds the same, and that's how he's making decisions as the President of the United States, if you can look at that and not think, oh, shit, this guy's pretty fucking stupid. Like, this guy is really goddamn dumb. If you can't see that and have those thoughts immediately follow after, you are in the cult. You are not one of the kind of normal people in MAGA. You're not one of the normal non-MAGA Trump voting swing voters, right? You are one of the fucking cultists. If after seeing shit like this, you don't realize that Donald Trump is a fucking moron. You can think someone's a fucking moron and still think they're a lesser of two evils. I think it's a little silly to see Trump as the lesser evil, but whatever. You can think someone's fucking dumb and still think they're the lesser of two evils. I think there's a lot of people in this country who think every politician is fucking dumb, and most of them still find someone to vote for. But if you actually think Donald Trump is like an intelligent man, when he's making governing decisions based on his refusal to learn what words mean, you're a fucking cultist. There's no two ways about it. And you can either remain a cultist forever, you can double down, stick your head in the sand, say, you can even deny the reality, right? You can claim, oh, it's fake news that it was transgenic research. It really was transgender research in rats, which doesn't even make fucking sense because rats aren't sapient creatures that can express a gender preference, right? It's tautologically impossible to do transgender research in rats. You could give them a sex change operation, but even then, that wouldn't be like transgender research, really. That's semantics, but that wasn't occurring. We weren't giving sex changes to rats. We were editing their genes to try to find cures for diseases. And you can deny that. You can deny that Trump is a fucking idiot who's making decisions based on his willful misunderstanding of things. You can deny reality all that you want to, and all that does is push you deeper and deeper into a fucking cult. Anyway, that's about all I have to say about the transgender rats.